A few years ago, I was making $35,000 a year. I worked hard. I showed up every day, but no matter how hard I pushed, I just felt like I was stuck. Fast forward, now I make over $250,000 a year. And the craziest part is, I didn't get there by working harder like everyone else tells you to do. I got here by following three rules that completely rebuilt my life. In this video, I'm breaking them down in a way that you can apply right now. Not someday, but today. Let's get into it. Welcome to closing season. If this is your first time here, this channel is all about sales, business, habits, performance, and becoming the best version of yourself, one decision at a time. I'm Brigham. I started a job that just paid enough to survive. Now I'm in a career that pays me what I'm worth, and I want to show you exactly how I did it. These three rules, they aren't tips, they are principles. They apply whether you're in sales, starting your own business, or just trying to level up in life. And I'm going to show you what each rule means, why it matters, and exactly how you can start using it right now. So let's go ahead and break it down, everybody. Rule number one, it's not about how hard you work, it's about the right skill set. I think the first rule in this is it's not about how hard you work, it's about what you work on. I used to believe that if I just worked longer hours, if I pushed a little bit harder, success would eventually just show up. But I was wrong. I mean, you think about it. You look at all these retail workers and starter jobs. You're not seeing them make six figures. You're not seeing them make $200,000 or $300,000 a year. You're seeing them make the bare minimum. And there's a reason for that. It's all about the value you provide. What actually changed my life was switching professions. I was ready for a change. Moving into something where the market valued the skill set I brought to the table. What I wanted to start with was sales. I feel like universally sales is just the most natural and needed job in any market. Things change all the time. Businesses change, technology changes, but the one thing that businesses always need is revenue. And so I wanted to learn that skill set before I started my own business. And as of today, I've had a lot of success in that realm. So for me, it meant moving into B2B software sales. The one thing that instantly raised the ceiling on what I could earn. Not because I suddenly became smarter or worked harder, which of course I did work very hard, but that's because the work itself had higher upside. Here's the truth. The market doesn't pay for effort. It pays for impact. It pays for results, and it pays for value. You can work 60 hours a week at a job that caps your income, or you can work 40 hours mastering a skill that companies will pay thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands for because it solves a problem for them. High value skills like sales, copywriting, marketing, consulting, negotiation, even video editing, these are what move the needle. If you're stuck right now, ask yourself, would anyone pay me $1,000 for what I'm about to do or $10,000 for what I'm about to do? If the answer is no, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's just a sign that you need to level up what you're working on. And this could very much mean you'll need a change. Before I was in B2B sales, I worked at a slaughterhouse. And before that, I worked as a payment specialist. So I had no background in sales whatsoever, but I just realized that I needed a change, and I needed something that brought more money into my home, helped me with my family, and life was just it's so much harder than it needs to be. And so when you apply learning new skills and skills that are valuable, I feel like, again, sales is an awesome one to get into. You start to see, things change for yourself. Almost like success is a consequence. The more you work on something, the harder you work, the more you apply, the more you get out of it as a consequence. So start researching. What high income skills are you interested in? Are you starting your own business? You want to do something e-commerce wise? Do you want to do, things that revolve around B2B, or do you want to do B2C, business to consumer, things like that? There's so many endless opportunities, and I'll be honest with you, odds are whatever you're thinking of, it popped up in your head. I'm guaranteeing you, as you were listening to this, 1 to 5 things came into your head, and you're probably thinking, oh, that's a dumb idea. Stop. There's a reason that popped up in your head. And so that aligns with your values. You have an idea, and odds are it's going to make you, if you scale it over time, it's going to make you more than what you're making right now. So which one aligns with your strengths? If you feel like you don't have a lot of strengths, start in sales or start researching what you want. Pick one, go all in for 90 days, learn, practice, apply. The skill you build next might be the one that changes your life. So we've gone over step one. Now, the next step, and I would say this is step number two, and this applies really for everything that you're trying to do, whether it's a new business opportunity, you're trying something out where you're trying to increase your value, so you're going into sales, but stay coachable and be ruthless about improvement. Rule number two, again, if you want to grow fast, you need to be relentlessly coachable. When I got into sales, I did not come into it acting like I knew everything. I knew I didn't. And honestly, that mindset is one of the biggest reasons I moved up as fast as I did. I asked for feedback constantly, every day. I know I was bugging the managers. I listened to top reps. I watched my own calls back and broke everything down that I was doing wrong. Most people say they want to get better. But the moment they get criticism, they get defensive, they take it personally, and then they wonder why they're still stuck. But here's the reality. Growth and ego do not mix. I had to train myself not to just accept feedback, but to also go looking for it. I didn't want to wait for someone to come to me offering feedback. I want feedback. I want change today. It has to be initiative. I didn't want for someone to come fix me. I hunted for it because every time I got better, I got paid better. And this mindset, it doesn't stop when you hit a certain level. Even now, I'm always tweaking, always reviewing. You know, if you ever think, I already know this, that's a moment when you start falling behind. Because believe it or not, we may feel like we already know something, but then we always add on, once we feel like we become an expert, we add, a 2% improvement here, 2% improvement there, and we start to forget the basics of what work. So always keep an open mind. Please be accepting to criticism and constantly seek it yourself. Do not wait for someone to go out of their way to give you that. No one else should have your back. No one else has your back more than you do. So if you want to make change, it is up to you to make those changes. And so always keep that in mind. Let me give you an example. I had a sales rep, so when I started working where I did, it was a startup. I had no sales experience. I struggled for the first year. I was constantly trying to learn. But as I started to improve, I noticed gradual increases. And in time, I actually broke the company record as well as there's a sister company, and I broke their record too. And they've been around for 20 years at that secondary company, but I beat it. I beat all of them. But what I recognized as time went on, that there was a lot of things and challenges I had to overcome. And so as an example, I had a sales rep of my own. I'm one of the managers now. I had a sales rep who ran poor meetings for months. I gave him feedback, gave him frameworks, tips, but nothing changed. Why? Because advice alone doesn't break habits. So I added roadblocks. Brains have a tendency to go, through the path of least resistance. I feel like that's most things in life. And so you ever try to set a goal or you try to do something new and you only do it for maybe a few days and then you go back to old habits. It's not that you're lazy. It's just your brain has those neural pathways. So what I did was I gave him the advice of, how to run better meetings, how to close more accounts and, close some sales, have some customers in his tool belt. I added roadblocks for him. I told him he was not allowed to have access to the back end of our software at all during a meeting with a prospect unless a proper discovery was done first. Knowing their pain points, getting to the root of it. I call it the discovery ladder. You get to the root of a problem. You go through all of that. You need to find out what's valuable to show, what problems they have, and if they're on board to see how our program can solve their problem before they even pull up the back end. And I have all these meetings recorded. So he knew that, and he knew he wasn't allowed to do it. And what that did was, as I said, starting today, you're not allowed to show it unless you have this. And it forced his brain to stop being in this habitual state because there was a forced roadblock in his way. It was a little uncomfortable for him at first, but it offered instant change. It wasn't something that was going to take him 2 months to fix. It's forcing his brain to develop a new strategy now. That pressure forced him to break an old pattern. With a couple of weeks, his meetings started to convert. If you have a habit that's holding you back, find a way to block it, create rules, put systems in place that make your bad habits harder to access and your good ones easier to follow. Take inventory today. Where are you trying to play it safe? Where are you ignoring feedback? Pick one area, go and fix it. And my advice there is find the one thing that's stopping you from making the most revenue today. And so we always think, it's my organization, it's my project management, and it very well could be, but typically I would organize these priorities based on one fact. what is my top revenue generating activity? And what is stopping me from generating more revenue right now? That is what you should be focusing on. All right, everyone, this brings us to our third and final step. If you made it this far into the video, please consider liking the video, commenting down below what your favorite part was and what you feel your biggest takeaway will be. And then also, please feel free to share this with others. I'd love to grow this channel to help as many people as we possibly can. So our third and final rule, everyone, do not just learn, apply relentlessly. I know in rule number 2, we covered it pretty heavily, was just staying coachable, constantly seeking improvement. But I think we're all guilty of it where we try to apply something and we do a really good job at the beginning, but then we go back to old habits. And so we have to put roadblocks in our way to make it so that the new habits are easier and we're forcing the old habits to be harder. With rule number 3, apply more than you consume. This one hit me hard because I used to, be a content junkie. I was constantly watching videos, reading books, listening to podcasts, but I wasn't doing anything with what I had learned. Learning feels good. It definitely made me feel good when I was watching these things, and I felt like I was actually boosting my value somewhere. It certainly boosted my motivation, but at the end of the day, motivation's pointless if you have no discipline. But learning does feel good. It gives you an illusion of progress and all that great stuff. But unless you take action, it's just noise. It's useless. I had to train myself to apply fast. I made it a rule. If I learned something today, I use it today. Doesn't matter if it's, a new closing line, a mindset tweak, a framework, or even me making a note to work on something in the morning for, my B2B customers. If it's good, it goes into the Play Now book. That shift was a game changer. My sales improved, my habits locked in, I stopped overthinking, and I started doing. I think that there's this fine balance of preparation and over-preparing. Over-preparation kills more dreams than under-preparation ever has. And so we over-prepare because we think we need to know everything before we actually take action and do something. But to be completely transparent with you, you are never going to fully know something until you actually do the thing itself. The road becomes very clear when you're actually in the trenches digging. You can think, okay, I'm going to need a shovel. I'm going to need all this. I'm going to need that. I'm going to expect the hole's going to be this big to dig. But in reality, that hole's not dug. And so you need to show up. You're going to have to learn what does work, what sucks, and how to improve. But it's always going to be harder in the beginning. The hardest step is always the first step. So just jump right in. The other part of this rule is just simple. Don't just chase more information, chase results. I think it's okay to reread the same book 5 times if it means you're actually applying it. And more to that, like when we're chasing information, what is it that we're actually trying to get? What are we hoping to get out of it? That something we read gives us like a hack. Chase the results. So learn just enough to be able to start something. And the next thing you have to overcome, the next task you have to attack when you focus on revenue generating activities, it's very clear. It could be the uncomfortable thing. Like for me, it was making 50, 60, 70 phone calls a day to prospective clients. I've made tens of thousands of prospecting calls. It's not pleasant all the time, but it's very clear. If I was underperforming in my sales numbers, it just means I need to do the uncomfortable. I knew what it was, but I would try to maybe I need to update my CRM, or I got to, take some extra notes. I got to do this preparation here. In all reality, just pick up the damn phone and dial, is what it was for me. As much as I didn't want to admit it, that was the reality. So I forced myself to make 5 calls. In that moment, I was feeling really uncomfortable, and it's not comfortable. The anticipation for something is always way worse than actually applying it. So the anticipation for me was, I don't want to make this phone call. I have this call reluctance, right? But I said, okay, let's dial this once and not even think about it. I just dialed the number and I got the person. I made the phone call. I set the meeting. It's perfect. That's great. I made another call until I hit the 5. And then as you realize, you do the first 5, whatever it is that you're trying to avoid, that is the number one thing you need to do to be that revenue generator, you start to realize, oh, this isn't so bad. We like to get in our heads a lot. Our minds try to protect us from the uncomfortable. We know exactly what the one thing is that we need to fix right now, and we always like to go around it. But at the end of the day, we know what needs to be done. So chase the results and learn and apply as you go. We don't need to try and solve every problem all at once. What you need to solve are my revenue generators. So here's my challenge. Start a learn and apply tracker every time you read or hear something valuable towards your goals, towards your revenue generation. Write it down, but more importantly, write down how you used it in that same day. Execution always beats information, always. You will learn more executing than you ever will trying to read for information. All right, everyone, this brings us to the end of our video. Just to recap the 3 bullet points that we went over, again, number 1 being to switch your focus from the hard work to the high value skills. Obviously, working hard is very important, but it's more about what you work on. You're always going to see people that work 40, 60, 80 hours a week that barely make, a living. And there's something to learn from that. So switch your focus from your current position to we got to learn something new. We got to build something new. Because typically, whatever it is where you're starting something new, over time as you scale that thing, you're going to learn that it's going to make you more money than you're making now. There's some very easy options out there that you can choose from, whether it's from e-commerce, starting your own agency, marketing, branding, or even going into sales to kind of teach yourself some of those valuable skills. Number 2, just stay coachable and obsessed with improving. At the end of the day, you're only as good as your current state. And so if you're constantly seeking to improve yourself and applying those things with the obsession of improvement, you're going to increase your value. And then that brings us to our final point, right? It's awesome that you work on something valuable, you have more value, and you're switching what you work on, and you're staying coachable, and you're obsessed with improving. The last thing is don't just learn, apply relentlessly. It's awesome you can learn all this information, but if you don't use the valuable information, you're not going to improve. So these 3 rules changed my income, my mindset, and my life. But more importantly, they just gave me control. They taught me that I'm not stuck unless I choose to stay stuck. You're one shift away from a new direction, more than you realize. I was one of you guys. Some of you maybe are, over here contemplating on life, making only $35,000, $40,000 a year, and you're wondering, is this really what it all is? It seems like this 6-figure, 7-figure lifestyle is so out of reach, but the reality is it's not. You're one shift away. And if anything from this video hit you, don't feel inspired, please just move. Just do it. It takes discipline, it takes strength, and it takes courage to do it. The first step is always the hardest. Drop a comment down below and let me know which rule stood out to you the most. I want to hear what hit home. Everyone's different and the needs of every person are different. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll be reading those and helping where I can. And if you're ready to level up in sales, business, or life, make sure to subscribe because closing season is just getting started. Let's build, let's close, and let's level up. We're going to see you guys in the next video, and we'll talk to you soon.